Don't go reaching for that tinfoil hat just yet. So far, sound control only works on very small brains.
So let me kind of zoom in.
Here at the Salk
And
Institute,
we can
neuroscientist
see.
Srikanth Chalasani is pulling up a magnified view of the tiny C. elegans worm.
So this is only a millimeter long from head to tail.
This little guy has about 300 neurons. Researchers know exactly what many of them do. And now, Chalasani and his colleagues have invented a way to turn them on using sound waves. Here's what that sounds like. Did you hear that? Of course you didn't. It's ultrasound.
We cannot hear these sound waves. These are much higher frequency than what our ears can hear.
They're actually the same kind of sound waves used in many routine medical procedures.
My sister just had a baby like last month, so she would get a sonogram every other month or every month, and I would see these little printouts, and those are printouts that are obtained from a medical ultrasound, where the doctor would use an ultrasound transducer and take a picture what my niece was doing at that particular second in time and space.
Chalasani says ultrasound is useful because it moves through the body. And he discovered that at certain frequencies, it can activate a protein inside worms. He found a way to graft that protein onto whatever worm neuron he wanted through genetic modification. That gave him a kind of switch. He can now use ultrasound to flip that switch and change the worm's behavior. A video from his latest study shows ultrasound making one worm do a complete 180.
This animal is crawling forward, ultrasound hits the worm. As soon as the ultrasound hits the worm, the neuron turns on. And when the neuron becomes active, it is telling the rest of the neural circuit, hey, I've become active. And when that information passes along, the animal then goes back.
Chalasani and his team call this technique sonogenetics. They say it will allow neuroscientists to do experiments that weren't possible before. Sonogenetics is a bit of a twist on another technique called optogenetics. That approach triggers neurons using light, and it was a major breakthrough when it first came out about 10 years ago. But Chalasani says optogenetics does have some limitations.
Light does not go through skin. Light gets scattered by tissues inside the skin as well. So you have to be pretty close to where you want to turn the cells on.
That means surgery. Some mice outfitted for optogenetics have fiber optic cables sticking out of their skulls.
Ultrasound, on the other hand, can go through skin.
It's a long way off, but Chalasani hopes one day ultrasound could help treat human diseases.
This is me with the power on.
He says there's already a surgical procedure that is benefiting people with Parkinson's disease by stimulating cells deep within their brains.
This is me when I turn it off. You won't be able to read that, it's shaking too much. So it's almost an instantaneous reaction.
He thinks maybe ultrasound could deliver the same result without requiring surgery.
Our hope would be that sticking a little ultrasound transducer outside of their brain would be enough to turn on those cells.
Of course, sonogenetics has its own limitations. At this point, it'll take a lot of R&D to prove this can work in mice, let alone humans. Even if scientists do find a sound-sensitive switch in the human brain, they'd be hard-pressed to know which of our 86 billion neurons to target for any desired behavior. That's why Chalasani says he's not worried about anyone abusing sonogenetics.
There are a lot of reasons why this is not mind control and why this would not work in a human right now.
But if you happen to be a worm at the Salk Institute, now might be a good time to crawl into a soundproof booth. David Wagner, KPBS News.